Have you ever stopped to think about what makes delicious food, well, delicious? It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer is actually pretty incredible. It takes us on a journey from a kitchen in Japan over 100 years ago, all the way to the most advanced brain scanning technology we have today. So let's get into it and uncover the science behind that amazing, satisfying flavor. I mean, really think about it. Picture one of the best things you've ever eaten. That rich, savory, almost meaty flavor that just makes your mouth water and feels so deeply satisfying. What is that feeling? What taste is that exactly? You know the taste I'm talking about. It's in that sharp, nutty bite of a good aged Parmesan. It's in the deep, comforting flavor of a broth that's been simmering all day. You find it in sun-dried tomatoes, cured meats, and earthy mushrooms. Now, for the longest time, we just figured this was a mix of the big four tastes we all learned in school: sweet, salty, sour, and bitter. But it's not. It's something else entirely. And that something else actually has a name and a really fascinating science behind it. This is the story of the fifth taste. It's kind of wild to think about, but for most history, both chefs and scientists were working with an incomplete map of our own senses. They thought there were only four tastes. Turns out, our palate was missing this huge, and you could argue, most delicious territory. That taste is called umami. That's O-M-A-M-E. It's a Japanese word, and the translation is just perfect: the essence of deliciousness. So, what is it scientifically? Well, umami is how our taste buds detect an amino acid called L-glutamate. And since amino acids are the building blocks of protein, when you taste that savory umami flavor, your brain gets this ancient, powerful signal that says, hey, this food has protein, this is good stuff. But the story of umami isn't just about molecules and receptors. It's a really human story. And it all started with one very curious chemist and, believe it or not, a simple bowl of soup. Let's dig into how this whole thing was discovered. Okay, so the guy who finally put a name to this taste was a Japanese chemist, Professor Kikunai Ikeda. And his big scientific journey didn't start in some fancy lab. It started right at his own dinner table. So the first seed was planted way back in 1899. Ikeda was studying in Germany, and he was trying foods like asparagus, ripe tomatoes, and aged cheese for the very first time. He noticed they all had this unique, savory flavor that just didn't fit into sweet, salty, sour, or bitter. The thought stuck with him. Years later, in 1907, he's back in Japan, and his wife, Tae, serves him a traditional soup broth called dashi, made from kombu kelp. And boom, there it was again, that same distinct taste. That was his aha moment. He took that kelp straight to his lab, and by 1908, he had successfully isolated the compound responsible, glutaminic acid. He then figured out how to stabilize it into a seasoning we all now know as MSG. So Ikeda found it, isolated it, and named it, which is amazing. But today, more than a century later, we can do something he could have only dreamed of. We can literally watch what happens inside our brains when we taste umami. I mean, really, what does deliciousness even look like? If you could see inside your brain while you're eating a perfect slice of pizza, what would you see? Well, thanks to fMRI, we can see it. You can think of these scans as a kind of weather map for your brain. See those bright spots lighting up? Those aren't thunderstorms. Those are neurons firing like crazy in response to a specific taste. And what this research shows us, without a doubt, is that umami lights up its own specific area of the brain, totally separate from sweet or salty. It's solid proof that umami is a fundamental, hardwired taste. Okay, but here's where it gets really cool. Umami has a secret weapon, a superpower that the other tastes just don't have. It can team up with itself to create an effect that is way, way bigger than the sum of its parts. This is the science behind what we call a flavor explosion. So it turns out there are two main players in the umami game. On one side, you have glutamine, the stuff Ikeda found. It's in things like tomatoes and Parmesan cheese. Then on the other side, you have these things called ribonucleotides. You find them in foods like anchovies, tuna, and certain mushrooms. Now, on their own, they're both savory, they're both good. But when you put them together, you get this massive flavor boost. The scientific term for it is a supralinear response. Just look at the activity lighting up in the brain's taste processing center here. It is completely off the charts. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 = 10. This is why pasta with tomato sauce and Parmesan is so delicious. But if you add some anchovies to that sauce, Oh man, it's a whole new level. It's the secret to a perfect burger. The beef and tomato bring the glutamate, and things like mushrooms or Worcestershire sauce bring in the ribonucleotides. It's a flavor bomb.
So that brings us to the next big question. It's not just that we enjoy umami, right? We actively crave it. Why is that pull so incredibly strong?
The answer is all about our brain's reward system. It's pretty simple, actually. When you eat umami-rich foods, your brain releases dopamine. That's the feel-good neurotransmitter, the one linked to pleasure, motivation, and reward. It's the same chemical that gets released when we eat sugar or fats. Our brain learns very quickly, umami equals pleasure. And this creates a really powerful feedback loop. So you eat something savory, your tongue signals to your brain, hey, glutamate here. Your brain says, awesome, and gives you a little hit of dopamine. That feels great, so your brain reinforces the whole experience, making you want to do it again. It's the exact same neural pathway that drives other cravings. It's why it's so hard to have just one potato chip, and why a rich bowl of ramen feels satisfying on the soul-deep level. Now, this powerful link between umami and our brain's reward circuit brings us right into the 21st century, and it raises a pretty fascinating modern dilemma. Because the science is so well understood now, people are using it on purpose. Top chefs and huge food companies are intentionally engineering what they call hyper-palatable foods. They are layering these umami-rich ingredients together with precision to maximize that dopamine hit and create something that is just irresistibly craveable. Which leads us to a really interesting question. When you do this, are you practicing a form of high culinary art, or are you just hacking our brain's chemistry? I mean, think about it. A master chef wants to create the most pleasurable bite of food possible. A snack food company wants you to eat the entire bag in one sitting. But both of them are using the exact same neurological tricks to get there. That line between just making something taste great and engineering it to be addictive can be incredibly thin. So the next time you eat something that is just off the charts savory and satisfying, one of those umami bombs, it's worth taking a second to ask yourself, am I experiencing a masterpiece of cooking, or am I experiencing a masterpiece of manipulation designed to hook my brain's reward system? The answer probably isn't black and white, but it's a pretty delicious question to chew on.